Okay, welcome to I Have a Buyer, Now What? So with that, this is going to be the start of the start, and that's how I put it. When somebody calls you up and says, oh, hey, I got your name, I'm looking to buy a home, like, what do you do? What do you say at that point? So you guys both have this? Okay, perfect. It says, I have a buyer, now what? So if they call you on the phone, these are the questions that you should start out with, okay? When are you looking to purchase? Or, oh, nice to meet you. How did you hear from me? Hear about me? Who referred you? You always want to find out how they got your information, right? But when are you looking to purchase is a good one, because sometimes they're like, oh, next year sometime. Well, now you have time. Why are you waiting? That's a good one, is why are you choosing to wait that long? Or is it a job transfer? Are you just wanting to sell your home or whatnot? But it's a little far out for them to start looking at homes if they're looking at a year out. So that's why you really want to know. Also, to get pre-approved if they're going to get a loan, too far out to go if they're a year out. But if they're like, 30, 60, 90 days, 30 days is cutting it close. Yeah. Usually that's like a cash buyer. I need to find something right now. But 2 to 3 months is about average, is when you're going to want to start the whole process. So then I always ask, who will be purchasing? Is it the husband, the wife, the mom, the dad? How many people are going to be on title? Are you adding a child? What's going on with that? Because that's going to give you a good indication on who's you're going to be viewing homes with. Because if it's a husband and wife, if one of them's working, the other one's not, the one that's not, it's like, let's go look at homes at any time of the day, and then they find something they like. Now you have to schedule the husband, and you're going back multiple times. It's not that efficient for you, but it's also, it's very challenging in a fast-paced market, because then at that point the house can be gone while you're waiting for the other one. So I try to say, I get right up at the very beginning, who's going to be on the home, on the loan, on the mortgage, whatnot. Who's going to be viewing the homes? Who's going to be making the decision? Because some men are just like, just let her pick whatever she wants. Or this is all I need, I don't care. It needs to be on this side of town, or this school's, So with that, you're going to kind of ask all those questions and then find out. So that's preparing you for when you are going to go view homes, who needs to be there. And then you'll ask them what their schedules are like, because it does matter. I always ask, who's going to be looking, and what are your schedules? When do you work? When do they work? When's the best time to show? Morning or afternoon? Only on the weekends? And then I always ask, will you be paying cash or obtaining a loan? If it's cash, great. I just need some proof of financing. Proof of your funds, whether that's a bank statement, a 401k, anything that they have. I need to see that. And if it's a loan, great. Have you already talked to a lender, and are you already pre-approved? So with that, let's see. Okay. Then you say, what's your current living situation? That's super helpful, because if they're renting, when's your lease up? And they sometimes they'll come to you and like, I have to be out in the end of the month. I'm like, that's 2 weeks. You aren't purchasing a home within 2 weeks. Can you extend that? Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm in a year lease. What month are you on? Oh, that just started this month. Okay, well, you're still a year out. So I just want to inform you, we can start looking now. Are you okay to purchase and potentially have a double payment? Because a lot of people think that if you're renting like an apartment, they'll just let you out of a lease. And a lot of times they do not. So you have to buy certain months out or whatnot. So with that, if they own a home, okay, great. Are you looking to sell that home? What do we want to know? I'm just going to rent that out, or my parents are moving into this one, we're moving into another one. Find out that situation, and it goes along with the time frame that we just asked them at the very beginning. What's your time frame? When are you looking to move? A lot of times it's like, if they're going to rent it to a family member, that family member's moving here in September, so I need to find a house, and so there's a lot, and then we have to renovate in the meantime. So they're good to go right now, renovate, and then that person's going to come. That's fine, but you always kind of want to find out what the time frames are. Then you go into explaining the correct steps if they need to start the pre-approval. So if they have not talked to a lender, you're going to want to set them up, connect them with the lender, preferably one that that you can kind of reach out, give them a heads up, whatnot. But sometimes they'll come to you and they've already got a lender, some family member's a lender, a friend, whatnot, somebody they've used previously. Don't really care. It's up to them, and I always tell them, get 2 or 3 good faith estimates, see what their fees are. affect me either way. I just need to know that they can do their job. So sometimes it's not about the interest rate. Sometimes it's how fast they can do the loan. Like, again, it's just like buying the home. It's not all, when you're selling your home, it's not always about the sales price. So same with your mortgage, you know, that's on them. I try not to get into the numbers. I just say, you know what, guys, that's up to you. If you need some, you know, referrals for some good lenders, I'm more than happy to give you the lenders that we use. If not, you know, use your own, but please have them send me the pre-approval letter once it's done. And then I always ask, do you mind me talking to your lender? Because I do need to kind of get down to the nitty-gritty of when I'm writing an offer. Like on page 1, what's your, you know, what's the down payment, what type of loan it is, and then going on to the next pages, what's the appraisal contingency time frame, the loan contingency time frame. Those are all lender questions. So that's stuff I do outside of the buyer knowing. You know, I just call the lender and get all of that information. So you really do want to have a good rapport with that lender. So then you explain to them, you're going to talk to the lender for your pre-approval. And then I explain why that's done first. Because some people give you pushback. I don't want to even go there until I know that there's houses I like. I understand that, but I can't set you up on a search until I know how much you're approved for, what your time frame is, what the lender's time frame is, and what type of loan you're going to get. Do you need closing costs? The lender's going to tell me all of that, so I can't even start a search. Because the worst thing is starting them a search on the MLS for conventional FHA, VA, you know, for everything, and they're only doing VA, They're only doing VA, and now you've just shown them all these conventional and FHA homes, and the minute you put VA in there, it drops almost half of them off. So you don't want to do that. You want to know right up front before you start them on a search. Now there's some people are like, I'm on the fence. I'm thinking about buying something around $500,000. I'm not ready yet, but can you start me on a search? Sure, go ahead. You know, because they're not really looking. They just want to know what's out there and then say, yeah, I think we are ready to go ahead and buy. Great, let's get a pre-approval and then we'll do it. But if you have a ready buyer that's ready like right now, you're going to want that pre-approval right ahead because they're going to see something they're liking. They're going to call you and say, can you go out tonight? I don't have that pre-approval, and it happens all the time. And guess what? If they are one of those that are like, I have to have this house, and you don't take them out, they're going to find somebody that takes them out, even though it's a backward process. So just tell them that's not how it's done. We need to do this so I can set you up on a search. So there are some times that you do set up a search before having the pre-approval, but that's because they're not really ready. I had some clients that were military, moving from, I think, like Tennessee. But they're like, we're not moving until February of next year. Anyway, you could just set us up on a search because they moved out of here 6 years ago. So like, we don't even really know what area we want to move back to or what we can get for this price. Sure, go ahead and look, you know, so they have an idea. Now, could they go to Zillow? Yeah, but I'm so thankful they came to me. Instead of doing that, I'm their source. So I'm like, okay, when we get a little bit closer, and it did happen. She said the wife is military, the husband is back here with the kids, but the wife is training, and she's like, I'll be there first. I can come up next weekend. I said, great, I need the pre-approval. We haven't done that yet. We're thinking, I said, no, we got to stop because I do need you to go through the pre-approval process because they're VA. And I don't know if they qualify. Even if they think they qualify, there might be something wrong with their paperwork. I don't know. And what's the sense of taking them out there? And they're thinking what came about is I had them on a search for $600,000. And she's like, yeah, we want a payment right around $2,000, $2,500. I'm like, well, that's not a $600,000 home. So let's rein that back in, talk to the lender, and he'll tell us what our max is for that price, you know, whatever you feel comfortable with per month. And then usually when the lender talks to them, they're like, well, if this is what you want, you got to go up here. And they usually do. But, you know, that's why you don't want to start a search. I'm not a lender. I can't tell them what their payment's going to be. And I can't even guess. I don't know what their interest rate is or what their credit looks like. So I can't guess what your monthly payment's going to be. So that's why I always push them to the lender first. So then I tell them, then once you go to the lender, get pre-approved, you're going to come back to me so we can set you up on an automatic email search. We'll sit down and type in all your criteria that you want. And then you'll start, you know, looking through there, making a list, and then we'll start viewing properties, and then we can make offers, and then provide them with a list of from the lender of what they need to get started, and that's in this packet here. It's a little outdated, but we can get you new ones. But it'll say in there, loan checklist. These are all the items that they're going to require for them to provide to the lender to get pre-approved. So checking and savings statements, stocks, funds, securities, money market CDs, complete 2-year employment history. So this is great to give to them up front. and say, hey, before you talk to the lender, just know that they're going to ask you for these items, so just start digging them out because I'm sure they're packed away in different places.
And then this part would say glue and gun.
Yes. That's super important. It's things you do want to do and things you don't. Don't deposit cash into your bank all of a sudden. They're like, okay, I'm going to buy a house. Let me just drop $50,000 I've had under my mattress in there now. Well, now we need to see where that came from, and so it's going to halt everything. So this is a great one. Epic Lending will give that to you, the do's and don'ts of getting ready to pre-approve for your loan. So any questions on the things you do prior to setting them up on a search? Ladies? No? Carrie? No? You're good? Okay. So now we're going to move on to the next one, which is if they're paying cash or they've already been pre-approved. That's a great time to meet with them. So you can meet them in the office. You can just call the ladies at the front and reserve a meeting room. Just say, I'd like you to come in, sit down. We can sit down. And when I set up the search, you're going to pull up the whole search and you're going to ask them, okay, 1 story or 2? Do you want 3 bedrooms or 4? 2-car garage or 3-car garage? And you're going to put that in there and they're going to see that number of how many results change. Because a lot of times they think we're just picking the ones we want and sending it to them. No, it's the criteria you gave me. I stuck in my computer. And those are the results. So if they don't like those results, okay, what would you like to change? You know, then we'll highlight an area and they'll say, I only want Centennial and up to like right before Summerlin. And they're realizing they're not seeing what they want. Okay, let's swing it around to North Las Vegas. And then they can see that they've got so many more property results at that point. So I like to do it in front of them, but it's not always possible. So then I'll send them an email. I'll make their criteria and I send them an email. Here's the email. Here's your criteria that you've given to me, and I spell it out in the email. 1 story, a max price 600,000. 1 story, 3 bedroom, minimum 3 bedrooms, minimum 2-car garage, and I kind of go down the whole list there. And then once I do that, I'll say if there's anything you would like me to change, please let me know, and we will update it as we go. But I put it in there, and then I bullet point. These are the criteria that you gave me, so they know what I've put in there. But you're also going to want to, when you meet with them, bring them. If you meet with Tim Sams over at Rock Title, he'll get you buyer's guides, seller's guides, open house packages, which I have one here. This is an open house package. So if you guys ever want to do an open house, he'll give you this little backpack. There's pens and there's hand sanitizer in there, but he gives you this cool little folder with all this information in here, important phone numbers, rent versus buy, the life of a transaction. So whenever you need something, Tim Sams at Rock Title is going to be your resource. He'll get you anything that you need. If you're going to do the open house, they usually have little cards that you could put up there. Please sign in, or please take your shoes off. Please add the booties, whatever it is. But Tim Sams will get you hooked up there. So in the meantime, when you're doing buyers, you're going to want to do the home buyer guide. So I always like to leave them with something. So at this point is when you would have a buyer presentation. So we have 2 forms that you can do, which if you go into one design, you'll see there's a pre-listing presentation. That's if you're going to list. But if you scroll all the way down here and click on all, oops, let me do this here. You're going to click on all. Is it frozen? Let me see. There it goes. Oh, newsletters. What happened? It was supposed to be here. Let's go digital. Let's see. Testimonials. Okay, maybe not. Where did it go? Those are newsletters. Don't want. Oh, presentation. So it's the second to the last. Realty One Group prospect guides. Okay, so presentations. You're going to have a buyer presentation and a listing presentation. So the Northwest office has actually made one, and that's what I'm using here. And I printed it out. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on buyer presentation and hit create design. It's already made for you. And this is great if you're going to keep it on your tablet and whatnot. If you know your clients, if they like technology and digital, go this route. If they don't, you're going to make a paper buyer guide. And pretty much what I do is I print these out and I just put them in there. And I get the plastic covering for the pages so it's nice and crisp. And then I'll just sit there with them. And then I go over each page with them. But I have what we will discuss today. So they're a little bit different. A little bit about myself here. Licensed 19 years, 15 years with Realty One. Here are my designations, how much I've sold in production the last year. And then we have what the honors that Realty One has achieved. So you're gonna make this book however you want to make it. But a lot of this stuff you're going to get from the title company, like the life of a loan. You can print these pages. He's got really full color pages and they're just going to slide in there. You can actually scan them and add them to the listing presentation that's already made. And that's what I like about these digital ones, is that you can add any page or delete any page, but it's already pre-made and you're just going to add your name and the date or whatever you want to do in there, and it just save it to your computer, and it's relatively quick because it's already pre-made for you. But if you make one, if you spend the time to make one, and then you just keep saving it, and like if you're going to update it with the date, I tend to take the date out and I update mine yearly, sometimes every 6 months if anything changes. But for the most part, I don't need the date in there. I just need my information in there. But it's already made with these beautiful pages. So you'll pop your information, your picture in there, a little bit about yourself. I mean, it's great. There's not much that you have to do, but you're going to kind of go over it. Some of them I fly by and I just tell them, hey, you know, since it's a buyer presentation, we do have a digital app that I'm going to send to you, and you're going to send them your Realty One app. Just kind of touches upon that and tells them how to use it. Just click on there and you can, you know, as you're driving around, look up the house or click a specific neighborhood or area. So it's really great there. So everybody has access to that. Realty One gives this to us for free. This, on the other hand, you can make that and then print the same thing out if you want. You can make it however you want to do it, but I really do like the stuff that Strong Title has because it's just full of color.
Sorry, we only have to go to webtitle.com and then it's everything.
You can see if it's in there, but for the most part, if I don't see something, I just call Tim Sams directly and just say, I'm looking for a buyer presentation. Can I get anything that you have about buyers or an open house thing? And he'll give them all to you. But this, you can email him or text him, and then he'll drop everything at the front desk for us. So like we don't have to go searching for anything. He'll have your name on it and it'll already be there. But this buyer guide is great because it kind of goes over things like quick reference, like if you don't really need to fill this out, but that's for them. Like if they keep this guide, and once you find a property and go into escrow, it's escrow number, the address, all the phone numbers and people that they need to contact. But this talks about who the professionals are in the transaction. There's a lot of people, 8, 10, 12 people in every transaction. Buyer side, seller side, the lender, the title company. So it just kind of tells you, it explains what their jobs are, because again, we do this every day, but our poor buyers are like deer in headlights. They're like, I don't even know what any of this means. So this just helps explain it a little bit. A breakdown of like rent versus buy, that's always great to reassure them that they're doing the right thing. 5 mortgage closing terms. Obtaining a new loan, doing the application, what is title insurance. So it really does 10 common title problems, how to take title. So there's a ton of information in here. So what I always do is staple my card to the front. Or I open it and staple my card in there so it doesn't get ripped off. You want to just sprinkle your information everywhere that you possibly can. So if you can even print one of these buyer presentations out, put it in a nice folder, and then leave it for them. But I tend to not. Sometimes it's a little too much. When I'm with them, I go over it, move on, leave this for them, and then they call me when they're ready. This is great. This really is great. So, and again, there's buyer's guides, sellers.
University also the digital.
You can have a digital if you want to send them digital. Sometimes I feel like when I show up and meet them, I want to give them something. That way when they leave, they've got something in hand and something tangible, and they feel like they're obligated to like move forward because, you know what, I met with her, she took the time, she gave me things. When you give people things.
I was looking for something like that, like I need to ask, how to get it, because I know Road Title has it, but
Well, my one buyer from out of town, I had all that for him, and he was heading to a hockey game right after, so he didn't want to take any paper. I will email it to you. He's like, perfect. I gave it to him all in paper on closing day. But he had it all digitally.
And I like that because there's some people that want the digital and some people that want the paper, and it's just you're going to have both ways to do it. But even if you're going to go to a presentation and know that you want to do digital, just try to bring this, because sometimes things happen. Your computer wasn't charged, you have no Wi-Fi, whatever, but you'll always be prepared. You're like, you know what, that's not working, let me just show you what I have right here, and it's smooth sailing. Just be prepared. That's nine times out of 10, it's just being prepared. And then you won't feel as stressed, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. You do know what you're supposed to be doing, and just go with it. That didn't work, so go to the next thing. So with that, when you're sitting down with them, you'll start an automatic email of properties. And you're going to ask them things like, what's your max price? What area? It could be by northwest, southwest. It could be by streets. It could be by zip code. It could be by school zones. You need to ask them what their needs are. Some of them will say, I'm open to anything. I just want a one-story with a pool. Great. I don't like that so much because they literally are looking in the whole valley. And so they're like, it's inevitable. They're going to pick on their, let's go out on Saturday. I want one over here and one over here and one over, and you are driving all over town. So I always say we do things in quadrants, and that's a whole nother class, but we do things in quadrants. So north, northwest, south, southwest, and that's it. So where would you like to look today? And I just pick one quadrant. But if there's some that we are teetering on the side, I'll switch over. But you've got to be organized and with a certain purpose, because they don't. They're all over the place, and they're like, I just want to find a house. And I don't like to show them more than 5 to 6 homes a day, because they all start melding together and they forget what they're doing. So that's a whole nother class. But you want to ask them, max price, area, how many people will be living in the home? What's the minimum number of bedrooms, the minimum number of bathrooms, minimum number of garage? I always do minimums, because unless they're like, I don't want any more than 3 bedrooms. I'm not doing. I don't want any more than 2,000 square feet. That's fine. Then you could put a max. But for the most part, most people are like, I'll do 3 or more, or I'll do 2 or more. Great. So always put your minimum and then the little plus sign. But then I ask them, do you have a preference of 1-story, 2-story? Are you okay with either? Now we do have 3 stories in there too. And if they're okay with 1 and 2, then I just put the 3 in there, and they can tell me they don't like it if they want. But there's a big difference between a 1-story. I have to have just a 1-story, and I'm okay with a 2 or 3. So you want to really ask, like, I might have knee problems and I can no longer climb the stairs. I have got to have a 1-story. So you want to get that out there in the open. Yard size. Do you have children? Do you have pets? Don't feel like you're being intrusive. Our job is to find them what they need. It's their house that they're going to go home to every single night. So you're going to ask as many questions, even though they seem a little personal sometimes, like how many kids? Okay, how old are your kids? Because the size of the yard might be different for kids that are 3 to 5 and kids that are 17 and 18. I know that they're older, they're probably not going to hang out on a swing set. They might want a pool though, so at night a pool-sized yard as opposed to just something with a swing set. And then animals, like what kind of animals? Do you have a Great Dane, or do you have like little Shih Tzus? Because again, there are some homes that have the vinyl fencing, and there's a certain amount of weight of dog that they can allow, because if the big dogs jump on there, they can knock the fences over. So it is important what kind of dogs. Some HOAs have restrictions on what kind of dogs you have. You need to know that kind of stuff. So don't feel like you're asking too many questions. It's better you have all the information instead of just like, shoot, now you're in this house, you got to sell the house or get rid of your dog. You don't want to put anybody in that situation. So I also ask, what year of the home are you interested in? Are you okay with older homes, or do you just want new? I tend to do 2000 and newer, unless there's some people that really like the older homes. I'm like, let's start at year 2000 and newer, then I'll go to 1990, and then I'll go down to 1985, 1980, and then if they're okay with it, hey, I open it to 1940, whatever it is. But the majority of people are still like, kind of newer. They'll almost always tell you new, but like, if we can't find you new, are you okay with like 2000 and newer? That's still 23-year-old home. But when you start getting to the older homes, there are quite a few more repairs that are needed behind the walls, the plumbing and the electrical. And if you know that they don't have the funds to do that kind of stuff, so just kind of educate them on that. Like, the older we go, the more maintenance and maybe possibly upgrades behind the walls. We might need a whole new roof, $17,000. Do they have that if the last buyer just patched? So things to prepare them for. And then I'll ask them, what are your must-haves? Because some people are like, I must have a bedroom downstairs. My mother-in-law is going to be living with me. I have to have the bedroom down. Or I have to have a casita because I have a teenager that's going to be moving into that. What are their musts? Number of garages. Like my husband, must have minimum of 3-car garage. Otherwise, I'm not even looking at the house, So there are certain must-haves. Other people must have a pool. I'm only moving if I can get a pool. I don't want to move. It's kind of a wash if I don't have a pool. So they'll tell you what their must-haves are, and it's very important that you really hone into that because those are their must-haves. So let's go to the next page. So initial buyer questions. And we kind of touch upon it on the first page, but who referred you? Where did you find me? So you're looking to purchase a home, or is it for personal or investment? What are you doing with this home? Because it does matter, you know, if it's not cash and it might be a fixer-upper, I need to know what kind of repairs that they, you know, as we see sometimes we can't, actually Anna Mary, you just had that one that you made the offer on. We knew he was getting an FHA loan, but this house, they had broken windows and missing carpet, and there were a lot of the roof issues. All of those are red flags to FHA, which could halt the whole loan. So we kind of need to know what their preference is why are you purchasing the home. And then if it's personal, okay, well, do you have the extra funds after we close to do these repairs to make it move-in ready? I always do ask them, are you working with another realtor? And they're like, oh no, have you talked to anybody? Oh yeah, well, you called up in this, have you signed anything? There's a form called a buyer broker agreement. Have you signed that with any other realtor? And the reason why I'm asking you is because it can become very costly. If you've signed that with somebody else and I find you a home, you might owe them a commission. So I just want to make sure, and if they say no, then hey, that's on them, and if they're lying to me, that's on them. I've done my due diligence and I've spread it all out there for them. And then I'll ask them, have you ever bought or sold any of the properties in the past? Just because I want to know how educated they are on the process. Now, if they said more than 7 years ago, I just take that as a new buyer, because a lot has changed in the last 5, 7, 10 years that they might not be educated enough. So I have to slow myself down and ask them, okay, when I say COE, do you know what that means? It means close of escrow. Due diligence, do you know what that means? And so I'll explain this. And I try to make it so they feel comfortable and not just like, okay, yeah, I don't want them to yes me. I want them to understand the process. So, which you should do with everybody, but then there's some people that have done multiple properties and they're like, yeah, I'm good. No, I'm good. Okay, yeah, I know what that means. Then you feel like you're making them look stupid and you're not. That's not what I'm trying to do. That's just how I do my business. But then you'll ask them again, do you need to sell another property right now to purchase this one? Because that becomes a contingent property and they need the funds from the one they're living in. They have to sell it and roll those funds to the next one. Without it, they don't have a down payment. So that's a totally different transaction. It can be done. We do it all the time, but it's just a little bit more complicated. So we want to know up front. And when you're writing your offer, you have to mark a box. Yes, it's contingent on the sale of this one. So those are questions you're going to want to know up front. Will you be paying cash or obtaining a loan? Have you already been pre-approved? Do you already have money set aside for down payment and closing costs? A lot of people either think you have to put 20% down or you can't get a house, or they don't realize you have to put anything down at all. They're like, I just thought I was going to buy a home and they're going to give me a loan. They don't realize they have closing costs and they have a down payment. They think it's just a down payment. So you have to kind of explain that process to them and ask them up front. Because if they don't have it and they're just open like, okay, do you have a 401k or something that you can pull from? No. Okay, is there anybody that you can get a gift from? No. Okay, well, right now we're probably going to need you to save 3 to 5% before we even start looking. You have to, unless you VA'd, are you a veteran? Can you get a VA loan? If no, then I'm sorry, you're going to have to save some money. But go ahead and talk to the lender and they can kind of give you the steps on what you need to do and about how much they think you might need to save for that. Then we go into do you have a specific time frame? Currently renting? How long's the lease? Have you inquired about breaking the lease? Now, that's a loan. Do you need referrals for the lender? And then the next step would be to contact the lender to get approved. And then let me know once you speak to that lender. I let them do their own thing. I'll give them the names and numbers of multiple lenders. And I just say, okay, let me know. Because it tells me, I don't hold their hand. I don't, okay, let's three-way call. I want to know how eager they are to start this process. Because if I'm like, okay, let's go. And they're like,